How you doing? I have got lots to say this morning. I've got my checklist, I've got my notes, and I'm really excited to be here. So first and foremost, I want to say that over the next few weeks, you're going to be seeing a bit of a shift in focus in terms of my content. Now, the way that I run my business, I tend to have things on evergreen. So if you visit my website, you can pop in and get what you need when you need it. But I'm really sensing there needs to be a chat about money and where we go from here. And over the last couple of years, I feel like lots of people have got clarity around where they need to go next in terms of how they build, how they pivot, where they want to go or what's not working for them. But they need the steps to kind of work out what then happens. So 2 years ago, I was invited by Stylist Magazine and NatWest to be part of a panel all around money. And this is a really interesting conversation for me because when I look back, I realize it wasn't necessarily spoken about. And it certainly wasn't spoken about in terms of charging your worth or what negotiations look like or how much you should be paid, how much you should charge, how you sell, all of that conversation. And I realize in the last 6 years, since I've become a mum, so this time for me, I call it my golden quarter of like the final year, because this quarter, this October, November, December, always seems to give me lots of shifts and sometimes it's like an abrupt gear change, like, whoa, you're going to do that? Okay, let's go. And sometimes I need to like get stuff out. Like I get almost the clarity, or I finally get to the bottom of something and then I have to like pull out the last grimo bit that's holding me back. Like there's a lot of work that goes on in this golden quarter. And I've been noticing in my own life that in the last 6 years, my own conversation, my own dialogue with money and how I operate in the world has significantly changed. And when I look at my personal circumstances, I can see why that sort of happened, because things that I was concerned about or needing money to spend money on, 8 years ago, 6 years ago, are very different to who I am turning 40 next month. And I'm really noticing where my own gaps are and where I need to ease in to different conversations for myself. And there's lots of other stuff going on behind the scenes, but I will tell you more about that as and when later down the line. But I wanted to talk about this event that I did 2 years ago. And there's going to be a bit of a conversation around money in this, but also about opportunity and perfection and speaking your truth. So we're going for some biggies today. The first thing that I wanted to say is there needs to be a conversation in your industry from lots of different people. There needs to be a very varied conversation. And so when I was invited to speak on this panel about money, and there was a bank involved and, the Stylist Magazine and all of these sorts of things, I suddenly thought, well, I'm not a multimillionaire living on an island. I haven't got it all figured out. What would I have to say? And that is our subconscious, our limiting beliefs, whatever you like to think about it, old patterns that are coming out to play. It almost felt like me going back to that moment of being about 12, or I can't even remember the age, where suddenly you're allowed to go off by yourself a little bit, or your mum would drop you at the bus station and you would get the bus by yourself. It kind of felt like that shift of, I know that I can do this, but I'm just feeling a bit insecure and I'm just feeling like I just need a bit of time to work through this moment. But when I think back to that panel, I noticed the importance of the variation of conversation. So there was somebody who was saying, this is how I raised over 100K in cash. This is how I reached out to angels of investors. This is how I got my product into supermarkets. There was somebody else talking about, this is how I built my team, and this is how I've really stepped into my CEO level. There was somebody else saying, this is how I moved my side hustle into a media company, and I was able to take those baby steps. And then I was there in that sort of, this is how you can create a portfolio career. This is how you engage in a conversation. This is how you show up, and this is how you work out how to actually make this work. And this sense of making sure that there's lots of different conversation, because when I was looking at that audience, and there was probably 100, 200 people in that room, probably more, I realized that everybody was coming from different places. But what we can do is we can learn so much by little snippets, because then what you can do is you can start to almost add your pick and mix and pull it all together and go, oh, that's going to be useful. Oh, I'm going to use that bit. Oh, that line that person said about negotiating, I'm going to use that in my corporate role. I feel like I need to do X, Y, and Z. So it's really interesting when you see that pot, that audience of a room of bubbling of ideas. The second thing that I really wanted to talk about is that sense, that phrase rather, that was ruling my life for so many years. And that was, as long as I can do what I love, I don't care about the money. As long as I can do what I love, I don't care about the money. Well, guess what? Guess what happened for all of my 20s and some of my 30s? I did not make any money. I mean, I made some money, but I didn't make good money, because I had this, I almost had like a t-shirt or a mouse mat or something like that saying, as long as I can do what I love, I don't care about the money. And so what happened was I focused so much on doing what I loved, and because I didn't care about the money and I kept saying it, I didn't talk about the money. I didn't ask about the money. And so what happened? The money didn't follow. Also in this talk, I had just had a baby, like 10 weeks before. And this is not a proud, like, I was back in my jeans, I was doing this, I had the baby, la la la. Because I was hesitant about committing to something, because when you're pregnant and you have a baby, you don't know what baby you're going to have. You don't know how you're going to feel. You don't know whether 10 weeks in you're going to be able to have a conversation where you are one of the experts and that you can articulate yourself. But on paper, I kind of realized that it might be doable. Fortunately, my mum came along. Stylist Magazine were fantastic. We had a lovely room. I was able to feed my daughter and take care of her and do those bits and bobs. And I gave myself plenty of space. And the actual panel was only about half an hour, so it all worked out brilliantly. But there was something, again, I was almost going to take myself out, because I was like, oh my goodness, what if I just look absolutely shattered? What if I can't string a sentence together? But there was something about that position, and maybe because I'd had a daughter as well, and we were taught that it was called a woman's worth. There was something about making sure that they had that representation of a mother, of somebody who was saying, I am still available. I am still in the game. This conversation is still very much important. And almost feeling like I wanted my daughter to know that it's not the end. And I was actually having a conversation the other day about turning 40 with somebody, of thinking, this is actually not the moment where I skid into middle age and just kind of go, well, that's it for me. That's it. The good days are over, and now we just kind of put up and shut up. Like, I really want to challenge that belief of like, what's next? What's exciting? What's really going to help me feel that kind of full version of myself? That's what I'm really interested in. The other thing I want to say about having a baby, and even though she wasn't there when I was doing that panel, it allowed me to really speak from my heart. So I was probably still full of a lot of hormones in that moment. So there was something about my energy and the way that I was talking about this that didn't make me feel like, hi, I'm sitting over here, I've got it all figured out, I'm now going to come at you from an expert point of view. And I think this is how money is spoken about. We think about it as the tax man, and it's not even spoken as like a tax woman, a tax man, or the bank manager, or I've got to go and have a chat with the bank to see if they'll give me some money. Mortgages and all of that kind of conversation around pensions. Like, it feels like it's behind a door. It feels like it's behind a gate, or even locked up somewhere where that information is not accessible to the masses. And I really saw myself in that moment of being on the panel, of thinking, instead of focusing on, oh gosh, I had a baby 10 weeks ago, I don't really know if she's going to be crying or she's going to be okay, I thought, I'm clearly holding a lot of that nurturing energy. Use it and have a conversation and meet people where they are. And I always try to do this with boundaries, of course, whenever I do a speaking event, of really hearing where somebody is. And this leads me on to this next question of, there is no such thing as a daft question. Because having been a speaker for so long, you can hear those moments where somebody goes, sorry, can I just ask? Like, you probably answered this already, or it's probably just too simplistic, but can I just talk about X, Y, and Z? And you can feel the room shift. You can feel that sense in the room of like, oh, I'm really glad that person asked that. Oh, that's really useful. And then you start to see people writing down. And so what I want to say also in terms of your industry, where you're up to, what you offer, how can you bring where you're at right now and meet people where they are? But also, how can you really simplify all that brilliant information that you have available and really support people so they can make shifts? Because for so many of us, I guess, and I certainly felt like this when I first trained as an actor, like I felt like there was this wall of all the people on the other side of it who knew the information, the casting directors, the directors, the producers, the people with the money, the investors, the script editors, the theatre producers, all of these people. And yet I didn't know the information, so I couldn't go over and join them. And I felt like I was always trying to do that. So I want you to think about this in terms of your industry, because this is when you'll be able to charge really well for what it is that you do, because your offering, your service, your product will become a no-brainer for somebody because it will make sense to them. Also, they will feel safe about purchasing it and being in a conversation about it, because so often we are told that's not for you. You can do that when you're older, or things like that don't really happen to people like us, or you need to wait until you're at a further on stage before you even start thinking about that, or don't overwhelm yourself, love. There's so much in the culture of that conversation that we're not ready. So thinking about your next level of your personal brand, really think about where you need to go and where you can get that support to just do that next step. So if it was, say, a mortgage, before you even speak to a real life human, go and Google, watch all those videos, watch those long webinars that people have put together on YouTube. Do it from the comfort of your own home. Just because you're not speaking to an actual physical person doesn't mean that you're not doing all the things. The final thing I want to say is, when I had a conversation with Stylist, when we were figuring out, okay, what are you going to say? What are you going to contribute? What are you going to bring to the table? Their overall line, and it was in my contract, I believe as well, was, we don't want waffle. We want people to go away with tangible, quick tips, stuff they can action. It's about implementing. It's about moving forward. It's about knowing what to do next. And I've heard a lot of podcasts recently to dabble around in it and think about it, but I like to go, right, what is going on here and what do I need to say? And there's a lot of podcasts out there where people just keep layering on, going, oh my God, that's so good. Oh, that's amazing. Oh, that's so inspirational. Oh, wow, you really moved me there. There's a lot of that kind of fluffy language. And I always come back to the fact of like, but what did you actually say? What was the deliverable? What do I do next? Like, I'm feeling that heat of the inspiration of going, oh, wow, they're raising their voices. Oh, they feel like their heart rate is coming up a little bit. but what do I do next? So that's it for today. I'm going to leave those things with you, but I want you to think about what are the steps you need to do today. What are the limiting beliefs that maybe you have about holding back and not being part of the conversation? How can you bring your energy to the table and meet people where they are? There's no such thing as a daft question. And also, what are the tangibles that you can really give people? Because when it makes sense to people, they will be able to purchase and purchase without fear. All right. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for watching and listening. And I'll catch you again very soon. Lots of love. Bye.